I would like to express concern regarding the plight of the residents of Camp Ashraf. Mr. Chairman, last year you and I issued a joint statement urging the Iraqi government to live up to its commitment to ensure the continued well-being of all who live in Camp Ashraf. However, reports indicate that denied medical care, including vital treatment for cancer patients, are still being denied to the residents of Ashraf. And Secretary Feltman, I would urge the Department of State to please intervene more proactively to ensure that the humanitarian protections to which Ashraf as residents are entitled and were promised are going to be upheld. Mr. Chairman, I thank the witnesses for their time. Look forward to hearing from them about the administration's plans going forward. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the time.
Well, thank you very much, Ms. Ros-Lehtinen, and we are now, I hate to tell you, going to have a series of 5 votes. As soon as that 5th vote cast, I will come back here and talk among yourselves or whatever. I just on one thing, though, since the ranking member raised it, I want to reaffirm the notion that the commitments on Camp Ashraf that were made by the Iraqi government and all that, I share the concern that those are kept and that we not forget about. The gentleman from California, Mr. Rohrabacher, is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you very much. I won't be able to attend the whole hearing because of a speech on the floor of the House that I'm working on for about an hour from now. But, Mr. Chairman, I just would like to note that as we go into this phase where American troops are withdrawing, we cannot throw those people who are our friends, throw them out as if they meant nothing to us. And those people who are currently allied with us in the war against radical Islam, especially the mullah regime in Iran, should not be taken for granted and should not be put in a very dangerous situation. I talk specifically about Camp Ashraf. These are protected persons by our own definition. We should not try to placate or let the Iraqis build some sort of cordial relationship with the mullah dictatorship in Iran by the sacrifice of these freedom-loving people.
Chairman Berman and I had asked about or had relayed to you our concerns about Camp Ashraf residents, their humanitarian problems, lack of protection. If you could elaborate on that, that's number one.
Thank you, Congressman Ros-Lehtinen. First of all, I think I speak for all of us that are working on this Iraq file. We agree with you and the Chairman 100% that the Iraqi government needs to live up to its commitments to protect the human rights of the residents of Camp Ashraf. And we agree 100%. And it's something that we are watching, monitoring extremely closely. And it's not only us. There's an international effort as well. The UN and others are also involved in encouraging the Iraqi government to live up to its commitments. Basic food, basic medical supplies, basic fuel are getting into the residents of Camp Ashraf. There's a lot of mutual provocations between the Iraqis and the residents that aren't particularly helpful. We've told everyone you need to lower the rhetoric because this could quickly lead to a miscalculation to get out of control. There have been some, when there have been incidents reported to us, we have engaged with the committee of the Iraqi government that's in charge of this portfolio, and I think that our engagement has had some success and reminded the Iraqis of their obligations under international humanitarian law to provide for the human rights of the residents of Camp Ashraf. So we agree with you. We need to keep watching this, and we're glad that we have international partners
5 minutes,
that are involved.
Gentleman from Texas, Mr. Poe.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you both for being here. I want to zero in on first Camp Ashraf and the situation as it is today and what's taking place there. I personally am concerned about the residents of Camp Ashraf, the 4,000 people that are in there. Have received information from the residents about several things that are taking place. Here are some photographs taken by residents of Camp Ashraf, and I'll have to let these get closer to y'all. And their concern is about the 112 loudspeakers that are posted around the entire camp that are blaring into Camp Ashraf at all times of the day and night. Apparently, comments such as we're going to set Ashraf on fire, Ahmadinejad is a great president and all of you should follow him. You will soon see how the Iraqis are going to attack and destroy this camp, and we will hang every one of you. Seems to me to be some type of psychological torture, torment, whatever you want to call it, to the residents of Camp Ashraf. First of all, I'm not sure who's doing this. Is it Iranians with the permission of the Iraqis? Is it Iraqis? Is it both? Do either one of you know about this? Secretary Feltman?
We certainly have. The residents of Camp Ashraf and their family and family members here have certainly told us about this. We're aware of this, yes.
And what's your opinion of it? Do you think that's the way we ought to be treating folks in Camp Ashraf?
I mean, Congressman, Camp Ashraf is on Iraqi sovereignty. That's just a fact. We have to accept.
I understand that, but do you think these are Iranians or Iraqis that are making these blaring these loud?
I don't know who's blaring it in, but the commitment that we have from the Iraqis that they must live up to, that we will be working to make sure they live up to, is that they do not deport them to a country where they could be tortured for their political beliefs, where they could be arrested or detained for their political beliefs, and that is a commitment that the Iraqis have given us. It's part of an international understanding. That's what the Iraqis.
Excuse me, I just limited on time. Do you think that is a commitment that they are going to live up to, or we just hope they're going to live up to?
We're watching this all the time. The Camp Ashraf residents are not popular in Iraq. They were part of the whole Saddam.
I know where they came from. I know they're Iranians.
And so this is a political issue in Iraq, and both sides around that camp, in our view, have engaged in needless and dangerous provocations. Basically.
Well, do you think that setting up 112 loudspeakers that are going off all days or nights, saying all kinds of propaganda things against the Camp Ashraf residents is something that should be a concern to the United States, or we should just forget this because now it's not our problem?
No, I think all of these basically dangerous versions of name-calling, provocation, etc., should all be stopped, because you don't know when things are going to get out of control there. You don't know when someone's going to cross a line that leads to violence. It's happened before.
So what are we doing about this? These loudspeakers?
We are in constant touch with the Iraqis on this. The UN is in constant touch with the Iraqis on this. There have been some incidents have taken place lately that we have played a facilitating role in calming things down.
So are we trying to get these loudspeakers down, or are we just talking about it?
We're telling people you need to lower the temperature on both sides.
So if they don't, what do? I'm just concerned about when we're finally gone, what happens to these residents in Camp Ashraf?
We support an international solution for this whole problem. We need to have an international resolution for the whole problem of the residents of Camp Ashraf. It is you can't predict when there might be that crosses a line and leads to violence.
Exactly.
Are you concerned as a representative of the United States about the Iranian influence in not only Camp Ashraf but Iraq as well?
Yeah, of course. We're concerned about Iranian influence across the region. I'm the Assistant Secretary for NEA. We see Iran's bad behavior in a lot of different places. But what we see happening...
Is it stabilized? Is it getting worse? Is it about the same? Is it getting better? I mean, kind of give me a thermometer of what your opinion is of the Iranian influence in Iraq.
It's there, but I think that the Iraqis have shown time and time again that they're making decisions based on Iraqi considerations. And if whether it's talking about government formation, how to conduct elections, how to do their alliances, whether to go against the Iranian-backed Shia militias, time and time again the Iraqis have acted.
So let me pointedly ask the question about the people in Camp Ashraf. Not only do they have loud noises and torture and afraid of their life, and the people in this country, Iranian Americans whose families were left behind or whose families went to be able to save the lives of other family members, are living in utter fear. Can you tell me what humanitarian act is it to let sick and dying people die because they have no access to medical care? Elham, Nady, both suffering massively from cancer, being denied the opportunity, one with thyroid cancer, one with acute kidney cancer in a critical state, already lost one of their kidneys, and they need to undergo an operation, and they can't seem to get into a hospital. Where is our stance on human rights? We are continually to plow investment into Iraq, and let me be very clear. I hope we have a pathway of economic opportunity. I hope there is a pathway for businesses in the United States. After all, look at the enormous measure of blood that we shed in that place, and what do we have to show for it? I believe if we do not leave behind a civilized society that in their own way, they don't have to follow the American way, they don't have to have the Harris County public health system, but in their own way cannot treat people in a humanitarian way, if they cannot form a government in less than 100 years, which it appears to be, that still is not stable and still we have not agreed to, then we have failed. And if we keep continuing to say they're a sovereign nation, sovereign about what? They're not a sovereign nation. They're a collapsed government. There's nothing positive going on there other than the massive new embassy that we have and the hardworking State Department employees that ground out their lives there every single day. Thank them for their service. But Mr. Feltman, I can't let you leave this room without telling me what are you going to do in our State Department about the conditions in Camp Ashraf. I come here every time there's a hearing and say the same thing. And what we understand is the Iraqi soldiers are the ones that are intimidating these people. Now, if you can prove that they are spies, then it is something else. May I yield an additional minute to, well, let me yield for him to answer the question.
Yes,
Mr. Chairman.
I will unanimous consent to an additional minute to answer.
Thank you. If there are spies, Mr. Feltman, let us know that, because that is a sovereign issue. But I want the State Department to act. Thank you.
We will have to look into the individual cases you raise. I, as Jeff Feltman, am not familiar with the individual cases you raise, but I will tell you that every time I have gone to Iraq, and I was going to Iraq on a fairly regular basis, a week, a month for a long time, I didn't right now, I go to see the Minister of Human Rights. And I go to see the Minister of Human Rights because I care about the same values that you have described, and because it's part of our policy to be promoting universal standards and adherence to human rights. And so it's an important part of our dialogue to keep in touch with the Minister of Human Rights. And yes, we talk about Camp Ashraf with the Minister of Human Rights. We talk about the prisons. Iraq has a long way to go.
What are we going to do? And you need to go. We need to go to Camp Ashraf. We can't listen to the Human Rights Director. He's not telling the truth. What can we do? The U.S.
I think that the Human Rights Minister, who's a woman, has actually been very effective in working with us on some of the issues dealing with Camp Ashraf, and I think she's also been a very good advocate for the very values that you're describing across Iraq. She's working in extremely difficult
I need a report in writing, because my time is up, a report in writing, not on this cases, but the conditions in Camp Ashraf and what the United States and she, the Director, Secretary of Human Rights, is actually doing regarding the ceasing of torture of these people in Camp Ashraf. She's doing nothing.